Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I am Inquisitor Caveat Ventus, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee, Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Laura Elizabeth as Lyric, and Tyler Hewitt as Alto. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band escaped the death world of Tren at a high cost. Valentyne sacrificed Horatio, the Doctor, and the remaining ship of the Astral Line. Alto flew the ship away from the world, and Lyric discovered the tech priest in stasis. Will this de-thawed tech priest turn out to be friend or foe? Find out in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
Adeptus Arbites log. You know, when they send you out, you always think, it's fine, I won't have to make any stops along the way. But then you find out about someone doing something truly horrific, something so offensive to the Imperium itself, that you must make a detour. That is the man I have locked up, and that is the man I plan to torture once I have dealt with this fucking planet. Lyric, you find that very man in your arms. He's a Paul Bettany-looking motherfucker. He is heavy. He's wearing a sort of a beautiful crimson robe that is stained and ragged, and has clearly seen a bit too much action. It's caked with grease and this kind of odd, sort of like foul-smelling mist that is still dumping out of the stasis pod. Oh. You are struck by the weight of this man, and similar to kind of, I think, what you would have discovered with Alto making like minor modifications to himself over the years, you can feel just how much metal is on this guy. And as he kind of grips your shoulder for support, you can feel that several of his fingers are mechanical, but a couple of them are still organic. Like I think a good visual clue for kind of tech priests in general, but specifically this fella, is very much almost in a Borg way, where there's just like a bunch of random tech, not in like the full Borg like servo arm, but more like in a 7 of 9 or the Reclamation Project in Picard kind of, like there's still like lots of bits. But to your surprise, a lot of this looks closer to what you would have seen back on your planet in terms of some of the enhancements people gave themselves. It's you're someone who's seen some pretty rough gang self surgeries, and this definitely looks like a lot of self surgery.
This is a backdoor.
Yeah. Or literally just like it's a little bit like trying to cut your own hair, where you're like, I can mostly get the angle, but not quite. So he kind of he's got very much like a sort of half his forehead and like a Phantom of the Opera level of technology built into his face. You can see that it's been seemingly painted some time ago with flames, like you'd put on the side of a sports car. And he kind of like coughs out a slurry of this sort of stasis pod garbage kind of on the floor between you. And he just looks up and he says, hello, new friend.
I just immediately like push him off. And
can you roll me an athletics check, please? He's a heavy sumbitch.
Okay. I attempt to push him off.
Yeah, I think the instinct is just like, get the fuck off me, as you would, because he's also like, he's a tallish guy, but he's slight, like he's not built, but as you start to push, you realize like it's a flesh sack of metal. Okay. So I'm going to say difficulty of 1. It's not tremendously hard, it's just surprising. It's not what you're hoping for. So 1 purple. I'm going to give you a setback just because of all the weird like mist and guck. In terms of story points, we're going to say, let's just go with a straight 3 and 3 on this one.
All right, can I roll?
Yeah, so this will be your brawn and your athletics, please.
Cool. 4 successes and 1 failure. Wait, end result, 3 successes. Fuck, I keep reading that.
All good. All right, so yeah, you shove him up and off, and again, it's more effort than you intended, but you're strong. Admittedly wounded. Everyone's very wounded.
Incredibly wounded.
But also he can't, like, he's like Bambi on the ice, like he doesn't have his legs yet. So as you push him, he just kind of like dead weight stumbles and collapses off to the side. I think we talked a little bit about the interior of the ship looking a bit like the Quinjet from the Avengers movies, or the Blackbird from X-Men. So you are sort of near the rear of the ship where the stasis pod is. However, it is a large open space. So for you two gents in the cockpit, you definitely hear like a large metallic clang as this happens. And Alto, you had just seen the stasis piece blink off. And Acre's like, well, shit, we got a stowaway.
If Alto looks over his shoulder, can he see the situation behind him?
Yeah, it's probably about like 5 meters back and down a little flight of stairs. So if you think about where like Hulk and Widow hang out in anytime they have to have a weird relationship conversation that gets completely ignored in later films, it's kind of down basically in the cargo section.
So by this point I've like drawn my shock whip.
I think Alto will stay at the wheel and just kind of turn to Valentyne and say, I think whatever was in stasis is out of stasis now. Would you mind helping out Lyric if she needs it?
She seems to be all right now. Why don't we keep it focused? All right, you do the flying. Now, Acre is beside you, correct?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Can I borrow Acre for a moment? Acre, I can't speak to him and know if he's receiving this, so I'm just going to have to trust you to relay. Could Acre pull up the files on whoever the chug just fell out of stasis? That would be wonderful. Lyric! Point a gun at them!
I already have my fucking whip. Get back here.
Please, Mr. Valentyne, could you make sure she's okay?
What he'll do is just activate his refractor field and then just turn his chair around and be like, yes, I can see what's going on. Let's find out the information we have, and just raise his bolt.
So Acre does a little bit of fast hacking. Tyler, I think we're going to use your tech use for Acre.
Sure.
I'll say he gives you 2 boost dice because he's literally plugged in. But rather than having the guy with all the tech skills sit by while an NPC does the work, let's have you roll some dice. So I'm going to say this is a difficulty of 4. So 4 purple. And I'm going to spend a story point to upgrade 1 to a red.
Okay.
So we're at 4 and 2 in your favor now. Despite having met his end fighting the Administratum down on the planet, I know he didn't. He died of old age. I keep forgetting when he died. Having died of old age, training, no doubt a long line of arbitrators who will surely survive and go off planet with their new friends and not be betrayed and left for dead. He's encrypted the hell out of this. Like this is like a top level encryption. Quite frankly, from a glance, this isn't something this guy should have been dealing with. This must have been a pretty, like, this is the equivalent of being like, we've cornered a serial killer, send the patrol cop.
Right.
So, Tom, random question to possibly add boost dice, possibly not. I'm imagining Valentyne would have a number of inquisitorial codes that might work in, general systems to kind of bump stuff. I don't know if that would apply in this case, but is there any way with the Rosette or that kind of thing that he could data spike?
I'm going to say in this case, no, only because it's a personal encryption.
That makes sense.
I will say Dark Heresy isn't built for an Inquisitor in the party. So you will find places where narratively it might make sense that an Inquisitor might magically have access or overrides. But given that you never really passed the test and or were officially inducted.
Yeah, it was
as
a battlefield
such.
promotion. I'm fine with it. Don't worry. I'm never going to argue with you.
No. I just wanted to lay that groundwork because that's the kind of thing that would kind of irk me throughout. It's it's like when the X-Men are like, oh, no, a door, we can't get through that. I'm like, all of you have something that gets you through that door. Fuck off. But yes, in this case, it seems like a personal encryption. If it was just a standard Imperial thing, absolutely. But in this case, it's his. Tyler.
All right, ready to roll. 4 successes, 4 advantages.
Nice.
Okay, you know what? Fuck it. We'll just say the Inquisitor did it. He did it.
Let's say, Tom, for the sake of narrative consistency, do we want to say Acri is now the voice of our computer in a Star Trek sense?
Oh, 100%. Yes, that is the plan. Yes, Alto kind of working with Acri, you find a bunch of hard coding, but it's just kind of fun. It's like, oh, cool, puzzle. Great, I like these. Yeah. So just like Lex figuring out how to lock the doors in Jurassic Park, you quickly move through a bunch of weird archaic systems to find the files. So it turns out that this tech priest, his name is Haldren Blackhand. His file is carries several Arbites encryptions. I think, Valentyne, you're not actually really paying attention to this. You just want to hear it, right?
He's got his slate, so like if he can get a copy to skim through, he would, because he'd trust himself, I think, to be more perceptive about what'll affect them than Acri or Alto.
Okay, so to your eye, Valentyne, this definitely looks like an open bounty situation, and you can tell from the wording that it's being underplayed. You've seen this before, in particular with kind of local administrators or local system administrators, and honestly, it's the way you would have distributed it as well. You can see there's some suggestion of desertion, dereliction of duty, escaping with classified documents and technologies. But reading between the lines, you see a pretty decent suggestion of heresy, particularly for tech priest, because as you know, tech priests are like the super engineers of the 40K universe, but they literally worship the machine spirit, and they have a bit of a Holy Spirit thing going where it's like they have a weird third thing that they like that everyone's just kind of like, it's also the Emperor, and they're like, is it though? So if one of these guys goes rogue, that's a real big fucking problem, because they're basically accepted heretics to begin with, but entirely necessary ones. So yeah, it's always concerning that someone would be held in stasis as well, because they're clearly a high value target of some sort. But yes, it's a fairly official report, but also very, very high priority. You can understand why the arbitrator took it upon himself to divert from his mission to apprehend this man.
All right, why don't we bring him over here to have a conversation? We've got a selection of these lovely chairs. Could you escort the prisoner to us, Lyric? Would that be possible?
Yeah, and I just kind of brandish my whip at him threateningly and just say, get the fuck up there.
You can see he's kind of like having some difficulty getting up, but you can also see him kind of doing that, like he seems to almost be running equations with his hand in the air. And then he kind of shoots you a lopsided grin, and he's like, of course. Hey, just so you know, I just ran the radius on your whip there. It would hit those walls. That's a bad weapon for in here. Do you have like a gun?
Shut up and move.
I'm trying. My legs don't work right now.
I will fucking stun all of us. Move.
Okay. And he starts dragging himself across the deck.
Okay. And I haul up. I put an arm like roughly under his armpit and try to get him up.
Wonderful, thank you. Cool.
So you kind of get him to standing, and he's like hitting his leg, just being like, "Wake up, damn it!" And finally, he's able to kind of take a couple halting steps. He goes to fall forward again, and I feel like you're not going to like fall down with him. And all of a sudden you hear a whir of servos, and several mismatched mechanical spider limbs shoot out of his back and kind of catch him on the various sides of the machines. He's like, oh, good, they still work. Good work, boys. Okay. And then he starts like spider pulling himself through the sort of body of the ship.
Wonderful. Have a seat, Haldren. Impressive limbs. Lyric, if you could join us, I do actually agree with our new, shall we say, mechanically minded friend. A gun would be nice. Not that whips aren't great, but a gun would be better.
Yeah, and I kind of reluctantly, but also like admitting that, yeah, that was fucking stupid. Put the whip away and draw my auto pistol.
Do you do it in that begrudging way that is like this is my choice?
Yes.
Okay, great.
100%.
I've decided I have a weapon I like more. It has nothing to do with you. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so he throws up again off the side of his chair, and he's like, I am so sorry about that. This stuff tastes terrible. If you can avoid it, I would highly recommend you don't get yourself frozen.
Do you know,
also, what year is it?
That sounds incredibly reasonable. So you're vomiting, my insides are on my outsides. We're all having a journey here.
Oh, jeez.
The question I have for you is kind of an important one, and I would like to frame this as the heretic problem. I've read your file. It's craftily written by whoever did it. It's what I'd done. They put you in kind of that top 10 most wanted list, but let you sit at about number 8 so no one knew how big a deal you were.
Number 8? Oh,
yes, congratulations.
Did all the spider arms do like a me?
From what I can tell, you are deserving of more. But the question is, there are heretics, those consulting with chaos, with demons, trying to drag the Imperium into the darkness. Or there are heretics, those who don't entirely get along with, shall we say, the Adeptus Mechanicus's interpretations of the holy texts of the Omnissiah. Where would you define yourself on that spectrum?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, down with chaos. Boo those guys. Not a fan. Listen, this is going to be kind of hard to explain outside of the Mechanicus. You're one of them inquisitorial fellas, right?
Well, that's what I get for wearing the rosette. Yes,
yeah, really, it's a pretty clear indicator. Just like all my robot bits, kind of make me a clear robot guy.
Well, if you're not on Team Chaos at the front, I will tell you, I am Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne. This is Lyric, one of my companions and a bounty hunter, and this is Alto, pilot, also a bit of a tech enthusiast.
Oh, hey, that's a nice rig you got.
This old thing? Oh, thanks.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
Well, his robot, like one of his servos, kind of goes over and shakes your servo, just over your shoulders.
Alto retracts, if Lyric's laying down. I was like,
no, you're getting away. Nope, just try to.
Don't talk to him. Could be for you, or it could be for me, and I don't want to risk it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I guess
it was to both of you. I was looking between both of you and saying
customs are different where you're from. That's fair. All right, but it's a pleasure to meet you there, Sir Inquisitor, scary lady, robot boy. My name is Haldren Blackhand, tech priest of Mars. As you can probably see, these robes need a cleaning. Anyway, look, this is going to be hard to explain to people outside the cult. But what you got to understand is, maybe Robot Boy here knows it. There's a spirit in the machines that powers them. It flows through all of them. It's very important. And one of the problems with this unending war situation we find ourselves in is, sometimes a tech priest like myself gets deployed to the front, and it's my job to keep all the machines working, which is great. I love machines. I love keeping the spirit alive. But I gotta tell you, Imperial Guard, are any of y'all Imperial Guard? He looks specifically at Lyric.
And I give him the look that I'm giving now, which is just squinty eyes, the fuck are you talking about?
I thought you were too hard for a guard. All right, great. Listen, the Imperial Guard are real squishy. They're not great with their flashlights, and a lot of their shit gets wrecked. And that's what happened to me. I was watching these beautiful machines die. And I realized that, maybe I could save them. So I just started adding stuff on, and just keeping the spirits alive. I've become a vessel for the machine spirits. Not the machine spirit in like capital letters, but like all the little ones. I'm like holding them inside me and becoming the vessel of them. But in order to do that, I need to constantly improve myself, you see? We just don't go far enough. Like, listen, you're an Inquisitor. You know about the Necrons, right? They're scary robots. But here's the thing. If you shoot them, and I think you're going to like this, scary lady, because like you seem like you kill a lot of people. Because your first instinct was to draw a whip, which means you mean business. You shoot these motherfuckers, they just get right back up. They just put themselves back together. And that's great. Can you imagine if we could all do that? I just don't understand why we don't all go for that. So all I'm going to say, I kind of pissed off my, siblings, my brothers, my sisters, my siblings in the Order of Mechanicus there. Because, they think there's rules, and those rules are kind of outdated, I think. I'm not saying we should become the Necrons, because, like, fuck those guys, but, like, we could be better, right? So, hence, my improvements. And ran afoul of some people, maybe installed some shit I shouldn't have installed, and they don't much like saying that I have the spirits within me, And as he says that, he kind of extends his arms, and all of the kind of mismatched bits start to kind of, like, almost form wings behind him. Like, he goes from being kind of, like, a goofy, like, character in a robe to actually kind of like vaguely impressive and scary in a vaguely mechanical spider god kind of way. And then they all shrug in unison. He's like, anyway, so that's how I found myself living in a freezer.
Alto kind of eyes Valentyne up and down, just the haggard state that he's in, and just says, what do we think of that kind of attitude about fixing ourselves up Necron style? Do we like that? I don't get it.
Well, I think that might be more of something our friend could have in his own particular interest. Do you have any understanding of human biology that doesn't require, shall we say, mechanical replacement or enhancement?
Oh, yeah, you gotta know what you're cutting out so you know what to put back in. Am I right?
Wonderful. Well, as you notice, my companion Lyric here is heavily injured to the point of non-functionality. Non-functionality. So I was wondering, could you perhaps perform some healing on Lyric and we could see if this story adds up? I don't want to sound mistrustful. You seem like a lovely human being. We all love the Emperor. So if you could just demonstrate the skills you've said you had, then we'll know if it all checks out.
Okay, I should tell you, better at putting robot bits in than just fixing the fleshy bits, but I can see what I can do.
Well, you're not really selling me on the skills, but we have no other option.
Hey, man, I fix vehicles. And I mean, our bodies are kind of vehicles, but I'm better at cutting fingers off and replacing them with robot fingers than I am fixing a finger. But it looks like your friend's about to die, so maybe let me try, huh?
Yes, I agree. Let's roll the dice on that one. So I'll assist how I can. Also, you keep flying. Just focus over there.
Lyric?
Alto, if this goes to shit, you use your fucking code word and screw these guys.
Where is his ship? Where is he going to go? This is so needlessly hostile. We could just be happy. You realize people who express positive emotions actually have better prognosis over the time in service.
Valentyne, I have seen you kill too many people at a whim. But I don't trust you.
All right, then. Well, we're going to have to trust the heretic and myself with your innards. So I think this is going to work out.
My option is death otherwise, so yeah, let's fucking do this.
I mean, look, I know I just met you guys because I was frozen in a locker for 100 years or whatever the fuck, but I gotta tell you, he's right. Every time I have to, like, cut a finger off, I'm like, that hurts, but, I'm like, but I'm gonna get a cooler one. So just lay back, relax, you already got a cool, nifty robot leg. We'll just see what we can do.
I'm agreeing to this.
Cool, great. Then we have no worries here. He...
I don't know who Jesus is, but...
Oh, yeah, I think I met that guy. Okay. Well, I guess sorry for this. To the kind of like spindly spider arms just kind of like basically pin you back against the wall. Then the rest of them, and again, I want to be crystal clear that this isn't like Tony Stark. like visually it's in a similar fashion to that, but it's not like it's really slick. It's 40K, but also 40K
Bargain basement Doc Ock. Yeah,
but also like Doc Ock by way of Fallout. Like it's just like a bunch of like mismatched. Like one of them has pistons for some reason, but it's almost like watching a mechanical weaving machine, where it's just like all of these arms are kind of like rapidly darting in, and it's uncomfortable and blunt. There's no artistry to this, but it's a little bit like getting a tooth pulled, where it's like, you know, you're just in so much pain, it's kind of overwhelming. It's unpleasant, but you understand it's necessary. Like he's not ripping you up. And I can tell you this for a fact, because I rolled a success, a triumph, and a threat. So like he's very good at this apparently, ish. Cool. Go ahead and we'll stay. What are you at right now, health wise? You're at 1. Or something dumb.
I've got three left.
Okay, bump yourself up to a 5.
Well, that's something.
You get the sense that he's mostly patched you up. Like this is definitely a field dressing, but it's certainly better than what you had.
So it's not going to get gangrenous.
No, that is actually something he's tremendously good at, because
that's good.
If you're thinking about like someone self-installing weird servo bits on themselves, they'd have to be pretty fucking good, particularly since he's admitted that a lot of these were like vehicles on a battlefield. Like this guy doesn't fuck with germs, because he would be dead immediately. Cool. So with that, the pins kind of slide out of your shoulders. You drop to the ground, and it's one of those awful like you can feel everything is like at least tucked in for now. It doesn't feel good, but it feels better, if that makes any sense.
So that's it?
Hey, she can talk. That means I didn't kill her. Ha ha! First time for everything. And all the arms like ching, 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 ching as they dust their hands off.
I just go and lay down on the floor. Be like, well, I guess I have to heal on my fucking own time. So
Tom, having watched that as Valentyne, he would have tried to figure out how much was dumb luck versus the guy actually being skilled.
It's again, the thing is like there is skill there. Where you were noticing the biggest deficiencies is that, again, he's used to like, okay, I'll just cut this out and replace it with something made of metal. Admittedly, kind of easier. Like if the finger's broken, I don't need to fix the finger. I'll just fucking cut it off and replace it with something that works. Having to actually try and fix things isn't really his forte, but he's not bad at doing the cutting and he's not bad at doing the sewing. So like weirdly, it seems like he's actually pretty decent at this. Admittedly, not as proficient as he would be if he was doing replacements. But no, it's not like he just lucked out and like the dice were good. This is within his proficiency, largely again because he's used to doing it on himself. Also, if you're hard enough to cut parts of yourself off and replace them with robot bits, you're probably actually like, you're pretty good at it or you're dead. It's the same thing with the gangrene piece, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Okay, so I think
and grimdark. You have to be good at surgery in a grimdark universe. Stub your toe, bam, your family's dead. Like, you know, you got to be careful.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Nurgle.
I should use my anti-chaos band-aids.
Yeah, the Inquisitor will then submit himself to treatment afterwards.
Oh, okie dokie. We're setting up a whole assembly line here. I like it.
Yes,
you guys are fun.
Second.
You guys are fun. I'm going to give him a boost dice because he just did this, so he's got confidence now.
Great. And can I use a story dice? Because I'm very injured and I would like him to do better. We'll say the Inquisitor is extra hardy after his series of accidents and bionic replacements.
Sure. Beep boop. Oh, 2 successes, 1 advantage. I'm going to cancel the advantage off of the threat from lyric surgery, but I still do 2 successes. So given that it's a less good roll than what I got with lyric, I'll say, Ryan, you can heal 1.
Great.
God, this world is fucking brutal.
Well, you're also not, like, you're not talking to a medic. You're talking to a weird spider robot.
It's just like...
But yes, it is.
I'm just so used to like, rolling dice. Oh, I recovered
you can roll my hit dice.
Rest?
Cool.
You betrayed and killed the medic.
Yeah, I slept overnight. That basically means I was just born and am 20 and in peak physical condition.
So I think the moment he's like stapled and kind of uncomfortable, he'll kind of go back to the co-pilot seat and be like, "All right, Acri, I think we hooked you up to the speakers. Acri,
Yeah, I'm here.
how long is it going to take us to arrive at planet? I don't actually know the name. Whatever Vicodin's planet is, Glasgow Vicodin.
Oh, yeah, it had another name in the files, but I believe these days it, according to the random drifts I'm getting here, it's Vicodin Prime.
All right, how long will our journey be to Vicodin Prime?
I mean, the warp drive in this isn't great. By my reckoning, about 5 days.
All right, so it's 5 days real time for us. We won't know how much time travels in years. Here's an interesting fact, friend. Haldren, here's the deal. We're trying to save the Emperor from a cabal of people who are going to murder him in what our vision seemed relatively concerned and pretty exactly about a year. Now, I'm aware of everyone here not necessarily knowing entirely that much about the warp. Here's an interesting fact. The warp exists entirely outside of the real universe, which means we could be traveling for an hour, and that means the journey could have taken a second in the real galaxy, or it could have taken 100 years in the real galaxy. We have no way to know. It's very elastic. So I have to assume, based on the vision, especially because we've shared it, he like points over at Lyric, that it's going to be based somewhat on our schedule. Otherwise, it's impossible to know, and I think it'd be very strange if we were given this kind of vision, only to be doomed because we had to warp somewhere the first time. So we'll deal with that. We've got 5 days, rest and recovery, and then planning. Holdren, what do you know about planets, rogue trader? I need to take a rogue trader alive who owns a world, and I don't know the best way to do that.
And all of the mechanical fingers try and do like a on his chin, but there isn't enough chin, so it's like just tapping random parts of his face. One of them's like tapping his like sort of glass eyepiece, which is super unsettling. And he's like, well, honestly, I gotta tell you, I've never really dealt with rogue traders. They don't really believe in the machine spirit. It's a real pain in my ass. So, I'm not too sure, but I mean, you know, I'd say like, much like taking anyone alive, maybe you can get like an arbitrator guy, like the guy who got me, to just like sneak up and, you know, just bam, take you out while you're trying to replace one of your toes. Oh, wait. And he like looks down at his foot and he's missing a toe and he's like, Emperor, damn it. I had a real good bionic toe lined up. This is disappointing.
We can see what we've got around the ship. I think you've posed a very interesting question. One, can you find yourself another toe or build one? I think that's a good project for 5 days. And two, knowing this was an arbitrator ship, might there be an extra uniform? So that'll be Valentine's big search is there arbitrator uniforms or armor here?
Cool. So unfortunately, there is not. It seems reasonable that there would be. As I think over the span of the 5 days, you have some time to actually go through this guy's logs. And this was, it seems this was a bit of a panicked mission to Galen's gift. Garden? Gift? Whichever one you're just on.
Garden,
I think, yeah.
Tren.
Because I think gift was your
that's
planet.
where we were from.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Galen's Garden. It seemed basically like this guy kind of thought he was going to be gone for like a couple of days. So there's you do find there's a couple of undersuits. So like there's those sort of jumpsuit material that you would wear kind of under the armor. You also get the sense that he might have packed other things, but if he did, they were stripped off the ship. But admittedly, given that the people of Tren only had one broken ass suit, you get the sense that likely there wasn't. That said, you do find some trappings. So you know there's undersuits, so you can kind of patch up your clothes. You can switch into those. They won't fit. They'd probably fit Valentyne okay. They're going to be a little bit big on Lyric and Alto, but given that all of your shit is currently shredded and or Hawaiian shirt material, really not a bad call. What would you like to spend your 5 days doing? I'm going to say with a bit of rest, you can all regain 2 wounds.
Yes.
Which, again, admittedly, I cannot stress this highly enough. Any real exertion, these things go away real fast. You can almost think of them as temporary hit points in a D&D sense. But you do get an actual chance to like sleep and recover, and that helps enormously.
Does that help with strain?
Oh yes, I would say your strain. I'll let you recover your entire strain from the 5 days.
Oh, that's nice.
Because strain is more mental, and like actually resting would just make that go away. Whereas wounds are like just resting for 5 days isn't gonna like put Valentine's guts back in. You know?
Yeah. I think once a course has been set, that kind of takes care of that for Alto piloting the ship, right? Yep. So I think he would want to assist Lyric and Valentyne in recovering. So if he can be of any assistance to help them heal faster, better, if there's anything on board the ship that can be repaired to medically assist them or anything like that, similar to the hospital clinic where he helped with that.
Yep. No, that's a good
medical
point.
Unit.
Okay, so Tyler, do you have any ranks in Medicae? Or
no career
medicine-ish?
Yeah,
okay,
no career rank, but
you raise a good
intellect, so I've got
you raise a good
career
point about your experience in the hospital back in not Jurassic Park. So go ahead and give yourself a rank in Medicae.
Okay.
Because I think between fixing the machine and assisting in the surgery, you've actually, like, I think if there's one thing we can say about kind of how Alto's brain works, like, I think you pick things up very quickly if they're within your sphere.
Yeah, as long as he has kind of like a way to relate it to stuff he already knows, I think he picks it up quickly.
Well, and
foreign stuff like the warp and chaos and stuff like that is like so far over his head that he has no like touchstone for it.
But I feel like in a lot of ways, as we've just described with Haldren, weirdly, like the human body it's a flesh machine, but it's a machine. And I think also when you were repairing the diagnostic things, you likely got almost like it's not that you studied it, but you like flipped through the tech manual on like, oh yeah, okay, I understand that this. Oh, I see. This is meant to do sutures. Jesus, sutures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that a lot. So take one rank in that, and then go ahead and roll me a roll for each of them, please.
Okay.
And I think
first
we'll likely think of this more as like almost more of a nurse attending to them. So like you're changing their bandages, you're scanning for infections, you're doing that sort of thing, rather than actually trying to do anything surgical. It's really just like care and maintenance, which, as we all know, is often more important than the surgery itself, because without the care and maintenance, you just fucking die.
Are we looking for a difficulty to put my roll against?
Yes. How many wounds? What's the differential between your threshold and current Alto and Valentyne? Or sorry, Lyric and Valentyne. One day I'll get it right. Probably on the final episode.
I have 1/3 of my total health. I have 5 of 15 right now.
Okay. So
including the 2 you added for transit.
So let's divide that in half. So we'll say difficulty of 3 for rounding up for
Valentyne.
Valentyne and Lyric. What are you at?
I'm at 7 of 12.
7 of 12. Okay, we'll sit yours at a 4, please.
Okay.
And currently we are at 3 and 3 for story points.
I'll use a story point for each roll because I think Alto doesn't want to screw this up and make us worse than when we left.
Understood. So I'll also give you a boost dice from Haldren helping.
Okay.
Just because he can also kind of explain, like particularly on, well, yeah, he healed both of them, so he can explain kind of like, oh yeah, I had to staple this fold. Don't touch that fold. That's
right.
that's really holding. That's just holding in kidneys. Yeah, you really, if you fuck with that, yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So this first roll is for Valentyne.
Great.
It was a wash, which I'm
totally fine.
Glad it wasn't worse.
and again, like based on the way we've described this, that makes perfect sense. You clean his bandages. You don't make anything worse. You don't make anything better, but it's helpful.
1, 2, 3, 4 difficulty, and we're still using 1 blue for
yes.
Haldren helping. Okay.
Yep.
So this one is for Lyric. 2 failures. Sorry.
Okay. So, Laura, if you could please take 2 strain. You would rather, I kind of imagine like an injured Lyric being a bit like, I just finished Red Dead, so I've got a cowboy thing on my brain right now. But I kind of feel like, much like someone living in the Old West, you just kind of want to go sit in a corner, drink whiskey, and like grit your teeth through it. And having someone kind of like actually like provide care is more stressful than it is pleasant. It's just like, there's like, fuck off and let me bleed here, please. I don't.
It's also just like not Alto's role to care for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine if I'm just mad, but if you're doing like sweet caring things, it makes me madder, but in the wrong way. Great. Okay.
It's not emotionally stunted at all.
Of course not. What? No, she's fine. Grim, dark future, well-rounded, adjusted people. It's good. Therapy wasn't discovered until the 41st millennium.
Okay.
If only Horace had gone to therapy. I have this problem with my dad.
And how does that make you feel? Like I want to commit a heresy.
Erebus tells me it was cool.
Well, if Erebus jumped off a cliff, would you do it? Maybe. Yeah, the books really went downhill. I'm sure he'll be back. Great. So we know that's what Alto's doing. Lyric, what do you think you'd be doing over the 5 days? Keeping in mind a good chunk of that is dealing with how injured you are. So like this isn't a like a proper like, oh, I got 5 days to myself. What am I gonna do? It's kind of like a what can you do in a day where you're real fucked up.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely like spending time because I'm like I had to fucking heal, so it's just kind of me like, kind of like willing myself to just like, all right, be still, don't move, you're cool. But in kind of quieter moments, my mind is kind of drifting to the space that I occupied with Heinrich when he spoke to me in my head. Because I think that was kind of like an awakening. I felt like kind of like part of my brain active that I hadn't really been consciously aware of before. And so with him dead, I'm still very pissed off about this. I'm like, I kind of have to figure this out on my own, I guess, if I'm going to figure it out at all. So it's more just me like kind of testing my brain and if I can focus on that space again.
Laura, when you initially conceived of Lyric and you decided you kind of wanted to go the psychic route, which psychic discipline were you thinking of? For those of you listening and watching at home, in Dark Heresy, there are 5 different psychic disciplines. There's biomancy, which is like kind of using your psyker powers to jack yourself up, give yourself greater strength. It's brawn related. There's divination, which is cunning, associated with cunning, which is obviously the fucking Robert Downey Jr.
Looking
I
over
can
the
imagine a fight.
Gains of fate.
As well as kind of glancing into the warp and into the future. Pyromancy, which means that if the cool kids dump a bucket of pig's blood on you, you just really fuck them up. Which is willpower. Telekinesis, which is moving objects with your mind. Jean Grey style, it's intellect-based. Or telepathy, reading people's minds. Jean Grey style, which is presence. Which of those were you thinking was the latent ability?
So I was thinking divination because I think that would have helped her a lot in her situation as a bounty hunter. Like that's why she was good, even though she took down, in hand-to-hand combat a lot of the time people that were tougher than her. And I think she kind of was subconsciously using kind of like the barrier mechanism, which is like you can kind of see again, exactly the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock, which is like you kind of see just in advance exactly how things are going to play out.
Well, for anyone who's listened to Dumb Scum and Villainy, our Star Wars show, I'm a firm believer of the idea that like everyone manipulates the Force in their own way, and like Han Solo's luck is just the Force acting in a way he understands it to. Hence why he can dodge Greedo's shot at point blank range. Fuck you, George Lucas. But yes, I think that makes a lot of sense. It also ties nicely into being able to share the vision with Valentyne.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's more of a divination-y thing. Not that he's a psyker, but that's the nature of it. Cool. So go ahead and give yourself a rank in divination, please. Because you can't really control it yet, I would be inclined to say the way we'll treat this for now is if it's a dire situation, it might just happen by accident. We're basically going to play Teenage X-Men rules, where it's like, I don't really know what my powers are, but like sometimes it just happens. Alternatively, if it's a situation where it seems like that would be the thing, we'll lean on it then. A lot of the horror video games I've been playing lately, it would be like if you're walking into a context situation where it's just like, if you have this, then you get this additional piece.
Yeah.
Until you're trained. When you're trained, you can start actively being similar to how Iris uses her abilities in Blood and Syrup, where it's just like, I can kind of occasionally get a sense of like, this is what's coming, but it's not like a click on, click off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Great.
So I'll still like take like the strain and everything that happens.
Yes.
Like, you'll still use the powers mechanically.
Yes, but basically it's as we deal with kind of the unlocking of this, it's you can use the powers, but you can't necessarily control them yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
I can't wait to trigger Perils of the Warp, where we just accidentally kill us all.
Gotta tell you, I can't wait for that either. And then cool. Okay, that's great. So yeah, you can't kind of like feel Heinrich there anymore, but also I think for you, based on kind of your background and how you think about things, my guess would be it's less a Jedi looking for Force ghosts being like, oh, I hope my old master will show up and help, and more like, motherfucker, are you in my head? Because if you're in my head, I'm gonna get you. So you don't feel any trace of him. However, it is something that you're kind of vaguely aware of now. Cool. Great. And finally, Valentyne, how do you spend your 5 days?
I think he'd probably do kind of like two things with varying amounts of like, do people buy in or not? One is he'd try to teach Lyric what he could about like Astra Militarum kind of language, and like essentially right now he works with two people who are kind of hive trash, and he might need them to be able to fake being more worldly.
100%.
So he needs her, like Lyric, to theoretically be able to appear like a worldly bounty hunter, and he might, while supervising, see if he can get Haldren to try to teach Alto some of the basics of just like how you walk if you're a mechanic of nobody, and like maybe a basic can't, just because we can't hide Alto's mechadendrite in his face, so better to blend in than not.
100%. Okay, so basically,
trash, so good
and true. We have a 5-day My Fair Lady or Pygmalion montage of like, it's a lot of like hastily constructed whiteboards. And weirdly, like Haldren and Valentyne kind of holding court. Haldren, the more time you spend with him, he does actually seem very, very smart and very capable. For you, Valentyne, his theories and his understanding of the machine spirit are kind of bonkers. At the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong lore-wise, but I feel like the machine spirit is gently viewed with like a bit of an eye roll by everyone who isn't a tech priest. Like, it's like, yeah, sure, cool, whatever you gotta do, man, just make sure my tank drives.
Yeah, I think it's like theoretically it's used a little casually, like how people name their cars currently. Like, yeah, if you're a Titan or like a battleship, you probably have a legit personality amongst all the AI code, but like your calculator doesn't have a spirit. I think he'd kind of look at Haldren as probably like a useful kind of problematic person, which is like, if this guy ever starts to succeed, I have to kill him. But I think he's crazy and wrong. So instead he can just be useful until he either fails or learns.
And admittedly, as useful heretics go, everything is self-focused. So it's not like he's trying to preach to other people like you should become this. He's like, oh no, it's me though. Like they all got to live in me. I'll just carry all the robots until we can figure out a good place for them to live. So yeah, he's really just like a delightfully eccentric collector. But yeah, between the two of you, you managed to kind of catch them up a bit. Now, given that both the physical players and the characters aren't well versed in the 40K lingo and such, Ryan will probably lean on you for like basically running translation, which means Laura and Tyler, don't worry about actually having to have these terms. I don't fucking have these terms in hand. Instead, just kind of say what you're going to say, and if need be, Ryan just chime in with like, "It's this."
Yeah, or maybe just I'll be like, "You probably would wear something like this," and you could pick out the right thing. Like, we'll keep
absolutely,
because I still see it as light in that regard. Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to like a document that I could read that would like give me a primer on this stuff.
Just give her the rule
Keep
book.
that in mind.
Here you go. But regardless, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was going to say the other thing I think he'd build into this, because a lot of it's just whiteboard shit, which is there. They're both, as far as he can tell, completely hopeless in close combat. Like, Lyric has been stomped every single time, and people are too injured to spar, but I think he'd try, if they're willing to do, like, kata for, like, a half hour a day of just, like, here's how you don't get stabbed by a giant tiger monster.
Would you both engage in
And
that?
Alto would be like, we're going to fight them again? Just like, Alto just, like, completely just say, like, I thought that part was done.
You like look concerned, like you tap into Acri, and he's like, "No, don't worry, there, champ. We're not going back to that planet. I don't even have the codes. I don't even know where it was. I missed my ship."
Yeah, Alto would be eager's not the right word. He would be open to learning. Yeah.
It's like learning how to put the safety vest on in an airplane. Like, I don't want to have to jump out of the plane into the ocean.
But it would probably be good to know.
I would like to know which tube I have to blow in.
Yeah. I don't want to have to learn this, but I have been on a plane that crashed is kind of...
Yeah, exactly. You're watching that video in a world where 60% of planes go down.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is very useful. How about you, Lyric?
From my position, which is like in the corner, laying down on my back with my eyes closed, I just like to Valentyne, I just say aloud, like, well, I'll watch you do it, and then when my insides aren't at risk of falling out of me again, then I'll practice.
Haldoran just holds up some duct tape and is like, I can help.
Well, I mean, I didn't realize that you were so much more fragile than I am. But you know what? I'll mark through these, and maybe one day you'll be strong enough to be able to do them yourself.
No, you're not going to fucking goad me like that. Good try.
Oh, no. Oh, you'll try? Oh, that's good. You know, that's very impressive. The Emperor loves an effort.
That almost
Just
worked.
do your thing. I'm fucking watching.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they always say about learning how to fight. Better to watch a few, and then you're ready.
I hate you.
And with that, Alto...
I don't have the skills to keep you two from killing each other. Please.
Well, don't worry. After all her not practice, neither will Lyric.
And then Haldoran just raises all of his arms, and one organic arm says, I call dibs on her leg. And with that, the motley crew of the ship continues their training as they sail through the warp towards Vicodin Prime. From the daily weather report of Vicodin Prime. Cloudy. You find yourselves looking down at a sort of a beautiful white-gray orb as the ship pulls out of warp into the Vicodin system. Vicodin Prime is a stunningly beautiful planet from this distance, although a cursory glance does show you that almost the entire planet, at least from where you can see, is covered in cloud cover. It seems to, in fact, be a tremendously cloudy day. You can see brief glimpses of kind of brilliant emerald green through the sort of gaps as the ship approaches the planet, but it is indeed a very cloudy day. You've been traveling for 5 days. Upon pulling out into the Vicodin system, Acri immediately attempts to contact the local networks and is met by static. There's nothing there static, but jamming. This wouldn't come as much of a surprise, I think, frankly, Valentyne, you would understand this as, given that he's a rogue trader who runs like a massive industrial planet, the odds of him like you've seen this kind of shit before, where it's like planets that are in the Imperium, but kind of on the weird fringes. This kind of shit isn't unheard of. A lot of people like to kind of, I think amongst the Imperium, it's always been a bit of a joke where it's like, oh, cool, yeah, you're jamming our signals. Great. Here's a fucking space marine. He's going to level your planet. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. It's always been like a low-level pirate move because it wouldn't stop an astropath. So anybody who's got a psyker, this is like sarcastically playing music outside. It's not stopping someone making a phone call.
It's a landlord saying you can't have pets in this building. It's illegal. And you're like, no, it's not illegal. Go fuck yourself. And they're like, okay. So yes, it's clearly a sign of strength.
I do think describing the Imperium as a not so great like condo board is pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean,
everything will be hell and you're all going to die here.
Except for the small cavils of people that you aren't part of, that you never get to see, that get to live in the condos and or just have them, which are the Space Marines. Like, oh, we spent all of our money on more Thunderhawks. Anyway, I don't know, just deal with chaos with your knife, you asshole.
I own a condo in a building. Oh my God, he's Primaris.
They better nerf his rules. The network, again, you can't tap into anything. Also, you obviously don't have an astropath, which is, I think, inconvenient in a way that you wouldn't have ever necessarily considered before, Valentyne, given that you've only, your space travels have been, fairly limited. Like, you kind of went on this one mission, and this is the tail end of that mission, where everything kind of went south. But it's a little bit like... if any of you have flown in like a small plane compared to like a very large plane, in a very large plane, it's very hard to tell you're flying at all. It's just like being just a large climate controlled box. Whereas if you're in a smaller plane, you feel everything. And weirdly, it's, I mean, personally, I find it almost a little bit more comforting because I'm like, oh no, I get it. There's wind outside and we're kind of riding the wind. That's fine. Same thing with ships, where it's just like, there's certain ships where it's just so big, you're like, I guess I'm just in a building. Like, we're on the water. And I think for Valentyne, that's definitely the ship that you were on at the beginning of our story was huge, and that was the same one you took out. So all that to say, traveling without an astropath is actually wildly inconvenient in a way that I don't think it would have even dawned on you could be possible, because it's like, I guess, a current generation that's used to Waze and Google Maps suddenly not having any maps or GPS and just being like, oh, how the fuck...
Yeah, we also had to use warp beacons and we don't have a navigator. Like, he has taken so many steps back from how things are meant to be done.
And Acri as a pilot, as a human pilot, had better skills than he does as a robot, but also he was literally built as part of a two-way, like, he was basically a glorified like tram system. Like, the Astral Line was literally meant to just ferry people to all of the different Galen planets in that system so they could be tourists. Like, he's not... He's doing a good job, but yeah, he's not, you know.
Yeah, he's a race.
He's not R2D2. He's not like,
sense that the Universal Studios employee stands at the front of the Fast and the Furious ride and is like, whoa, and it rides a line.
100%. Yeah. So, needless to say, it's impressive that you arrived where you intended to, and that's, I think, partially from the combined efforts of Alto tinkering with systems and Haldren tinkering with systems and Acri's just kind of innate piloting. But you had to use warp beacons. It's a smaller ship. It's also been heavily modified in order to even be able to do this. So basically, a lot of things went really right for you guys, which is new for the party, because you haven't had a lot of things going right up until now. The trip took you 2 additional days, which in warp terms isn't bad at all. But it does mean that you've been gone a full week. I am roughly tracking our sort of countdown. As I mentioned a long time ago, in no way, shape, or form am I going to like mark this down as like, well, you took 3 long rests, so the Emperor's dead. But
I think
just so we have a rough benchmark of where we are and kind of roughly what's happening. It'll be loose but useful.
Yeah, I was also thinking in terms of prophecy with warp meets reality and all this kind of stuff on the way, and I also realized, oh wait, all 10 of them are there in a year. We actually don't, like, Valentyne, I think, has been thinking the way Ryan would have, which is like, well, what happens when we take out 1? Does that mean all 9 of them are there in a year? Or does it timeline shift? Man, he would hate not being psychic. Shit, it's the only time in his life he's ever wished to be a psyker. It's just to do better with this
I wish I was more heretical.
Yeah.
the Valentyne not heresy enough. Am I right? Get at me, heresy Twitter. Okay, so you're within range of the planet. It's a smallish planet, which doesn't really come as a tremendous surprise, given that it is seemingly dedicated to kind of one niche industry. Yeah. What preparations would you make? How would you want to approach? What's the next step for you now that you're kind of out of warp?
If we were looking at the world, and we probably would have whatever our most up-to-date map was, which might not be that recent, but is there like a starport kind of thing like Tom? Is it all based on the surface where you'd have to go down to get into the heart of the industry in the city, or is it up above?
Yeah. So there isn't any specific information. I think you get a rough, like, in the same way that I think old maps would have, like, there's a port here. You have that much information, but not really much more. It is mostly planet side. You get the sense based on the kind of cargo that would be coming on and off a distillery planet. Like, there's a lot of loading involved, and you don't, like, he's rich, but he's not like build a skyhook to, like, mid-level space station kind of guy. Also, I feel like space stations are relatively rare in 40K verse. Am I correct in that thing?
It tends to be planets either are specialized and then it's like an asteroid that does it. Some of them have like star forts, or like their moon is weaponized, so they have that. Like, it's probably more important. Small people, no, they would not have that.
Yeah. You also, I mean, none of you have encountered this information, but I think I can just give it to you. The Vicodin family has been making this alcohol for generations. It's a long-standing thing, and based on his name, you've probably assumed by now that I'm pulling a lot from Scotland. It's a lot like Scotch distilleries in Scotland, where the idea of having to present the tradition also matters. Alexander Keith's beer does this in Nova Scotia as well, where it's like the act of, like, the performative act of, no, we do things the old-fashioned way seems to be important to this brand. So you can assume that, yeah, they wouldn't have like it's not, if we're talking distilleries, it's not like a Coors where it's just like, oh no, fucking whatever, just dump it in, I don't care. It's like, oh no, it's barrel aged. It's very important. So yes, there is less a starport and more kind of, even just from loose planetary scans, there's only really one hub of civilization on this planet that is sending off any signals. So despite the cloud cover, you can ascertain kind of where that is, and that is clearly the location of the distillery. I'll say from the records you do have of this planet, they're, again, very loose, because why would you have... You can't access the network, but, like, just in terms of general
Why would
charts.
this ship have it? Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of, like, a general... Like, I've got to assume that the Imperium would have a rough idea of planets that have been encountered. This planet is actually labeled as a feudal world, so a planet that was not... advanced by the Imperium specifically. So for us thinking about this, Earth would probably be considered this if Earth was like, there is an Earth in 40K, but in terms of like, okay, like, yeah, sure, we've kind of done our best, but we're not really that technologically advanced. We're just kind of, we've done our best to a point. Most feudal worlds are much more basic than that. They are literally like, there's one person with a gun and everyone else has a sword. But in this case, because it's been handed down from generation to generation, it's more technologically advanced, but it is listed, the categorization is feudal.
All right, so having seen what we've seen amongst these record friends, so the feudal world designation would suggest that, at least before it was colonized, or however old this star chart is, this world was somewhat primitive, and it may be primitive outside of the central area. Now, we could go in and wave the old, shall we say, inquisitorial stick about, which is something that would open a certain number of doors. However, it would close any doors that they don't want the Inquisition to have access to. So I believe we've got two clear options, and I'm interested to hear any ideas anyone else has, because the Emperor loves innovation. So what I'm thinking is we could either go down, set down somewhere kind of hidden, and try to insert ourselves into the capital to find what we need from the outside. So once we know and have more information, perhaps we've claimed some certain things we need, healing supplies, perhaps better armor, because as far as I can tell, the two of you wear elaborate coats. that might be something we could improve. Otherwise, are you okay, Alto?
Do you need to roll a death save there, Alto, from your wounded
It just clutches Kel's cloak that he inherited after she died. It was like, oh.
Oh, so you like the coat? Oh, we could put armor under it. I'm not saying the coat has to go. I'm just saying it's clearly not keeping you alive in the way it did when you fought, I don't know, neighbors with sticks. I don't know terribly much about hives, and I don't mean to be insulting. You do have electro whips. I'm aware you're far beyond the feudal world. But the other option would be to try to, shall we say, gussy ourselves up and come up with a cover story about representing some sort of secret shipping concern or someone who might want to have business dealings with the Vicodin liquor group. That would again open some doors, and then we could just boot open a few more by showing a rosette and sticking guns in faces that aren't ready for guns. How does everyone feel about deception versus secrecy?
I'm
funny
fine with
third
it.
thing.
That's great. Yeah, let's lie our way in. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we've done our fair share of, massaging the truth before, for a job or just to kind of get by. But we haven't really done a big con to get onto another planet. I mean, it sounds easy. You make it sound easy, so it should be fine, right?
Well, based on the feedback that you're both giving, one of you disturbing overconfidence without an ability to hide their emotions or thoughts, and the other saying they've never done a con, I think we might want to go secret for the first bit, and then maybe do the con when we have more information that we could back up. I trust you are both capable, but I would say improvisation probably doesn't make your top 5 skills. We've used this whiteboard here, and you look over, there's just an eagle with 2 heads. It just says Imperium with an arrow at it. And he's like, you're understanding the basics, but I think we might want to get more advanced before we start riffing bits when it comes to imperial aristocracy on a rogue trader world. So why don't we try to find a point near the capital, but far enough away that they won't see us set down, and then we can try to engage on our own terms.
I should be able to do that. I can do that.
Yes.
Alto,
God, it takes you so long to say things.
Alto sits down in the chair and kind of switches over to manual flight and starts to chart a course for near the capital.
Sure.
Holdren, this is an awkward question. Can I just speak with you quietly at the back of the ship for a moment?
Quietly? Yeah, I love quiet. Let's go.
I regret this decision, but I've already made it. Do you know what? Maybe the Emperor sent you to me for a reason. Here's the thing, Holdren. You look like someone who naturally understands people, and I know I can be a bit distant from them at times. Lyric does not like or trust me, which is bothersome because it means she tends to make decisions that are destructive for the group, our goals, and ultimately herself. But when I try to include her in planning, she just says yes to everything and then leaves. I'm sort of out of strategies. I've tried taking it head on, and I've tried including her in our decisions moving forward. How did you get people to agree with you to give you machine spirits you weren't supposed to have? How did you survive for so long? You must have been good at making friends.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, listen. Imperial Guard are very squishy. I think we've been over this. Real squishy. They die so easily. So,
That's great. So does Lyric.
Okay, good. All right, yeah. This is a good baseline. Good baseline. Okay, look. So, they realized that if I wasn't, fixing the beautiful, sweet creatures that were driving them into combat, they'd just get squished. So they really liked when I'd patch up the vehicles and such. So they realized I had value to them, and as a result, they were kind of okay with me. So there was that element of it, which was pretty good. But also, look, I mean, I know you're from you're an Inquisitor, and you got a lot of experience with all this space stuff, and that's really cool and all. But have you really talked to her about what she did? I mean, it sounds like that Astro boy over there got real bummed out when he made fun of his coat. It's important. This is something I saw a lot with the Guard, because, you and me, we kind of grew up inside the Imperium. Everyone's like, hey, you guys are great. And, we kind of are. We're just kind of better than normal people, right? But the normal people still have full lives. All those squishy Guard folk, they really, they thought they were a big deal. So, maybe find out what what she did and what she's good at, what she takes pride in, you know? Because right now it kind of seems like you're treating them, admittedly kind of the way you treat Imperial Guard, and those guys suck. So maybe ask her what she likes, figure out kind of like what she used to do, and maybe that might even help with your plan. Why not?
It's an interesting idea. I'll try it. I'll tell you, she does not respond well to curiosity, but I'll see what I can do. I'm interested. I do believe I could grow closer to Alto through these methodologies. I believe he shows great potential for the future, for himself and for the Emperor. So thank you.
Yeah, well, listen, if there's one thing I learned from kind of being away from the rest of the Mechanicum and such, it is hard out there for a tech priest. It is scary and weird. And I thought I was kind of equipped to deal with everything, and then I found myself alone, surrounded by a bunch of squishy idiots. And it seems to me like you're kind of surrounded by squishy idiots. So the only way out is to really realize that you don't have, like, no space marines are showing up. The Adeptus Astartes aren't there, like, they're not coming. It's just you. And no offense, but, like, I've literally seen inside you now. And her. You guys are pretty squishy. You're a squishy bunch. Now, you want to install some metal, I'm your guy. And I see you already got some nice optics going, so, like, good stuff. But it's just the three of you against the world. And me now, so haha. But, you know, it's important to remember, whatever you think you've got backing you up, you don't got it no more. It's just us.
Yes.
And my spirits, of course.
You're right. You're right. I assumed that establishing that I wouldn't sacrifice them and would sacrifice anyone else to save them would be something that she would appreciate, but it seems to have driven her further away. I'll think on this, Holden. You're very wise. Do you prefer the appellate man? I don't know if you prefer something else.
I mean, man's fine. Honestly, I've kind of transcended the whole squishy human bit, but, you know, whatever makes you feel good, bud.
I mean, would you prefer adept? We could use separate.
Yeah, adept would be very nice. You know, no one's called me that in a long time. That'd be very good.
You're an honourable adept, my friend.
Ah, shucks.
It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
I think he'd offer him a hand.
He reaches out, and you notice that he's actually replaced one more of his fingers at some point in the last 5 days. You're not really
Didn't
sure
even
when.
notice.
Yeah, he's like,
Just cannibalizing the ship.
and he's like, thank you. You're, I was always kind of spooked out by you Inquisitor folk, but you seem pretty cool. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. And as he walks away, you notice that he has one very long toe.
Interesting. All right.
It's organic. It's organic.
I see what he did.
Ah. Well, you know, everyone, nobody's perfect, as the Emperor always says, so...
How much of what Haldren just boisterously said to Valentyne did the rest of the ship hear?
I think I will say that despite his boisterous attitude, this all would have been uncomfortably enthusiastic guy with his arm around your shoulder speaking loudly into your ear.
Conversation.
I think you would have heard the cadence of it, so it would have been a lot like, and then like also like all of his arms were twitching, so there was like servos moving and things, and they're not quiet. Like again, a couple of them are like full steampunk weirdness. So no, I think it was loud enough that you were like, I think of the two of you, Lyric, I don't think you would really give two fucks what they were talking about, but like Alto, if you were like doing that thing where you're kind of trying to listen in, it was very hard. I don't think you really got much of it.
Okay, no, I was just mostly like just the way that started off of like, can we have a private conversation? It's like, yeah, no problem. I just wanted to know how much private it was.
He doesn't
if
have.
It was private, then Alto would not be consciously being like, I got to see what they're up to.
Yeah,
like
it's private in the way that two people talking at room volume in a party is private. Like he doesn't have the volume doesn't really go down, but it was enough that it was hard to hear.
Got it.
You guys may have talked while I was back there. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
That is a good question, actually. Over the course of the 5 days / now, do you think you two would have taken a moment to kind of check in with each other?
Alto would be checking in, for sure.
I think Lyric would just give like occasional reminders of like if she ever saw like Alto like talking to Valentyne or Valentyne approaching him, it would just be like Lyric would be following that up with like, you know, we don't fucking trust him, right? Like
yeah.
just get ready to like leave this guy.
You and me all the way, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, he's been around. So it's kind of cool here what he has to say, I think we could learn a lot from him.
Yeah. Yep.
But we don't trust him.
No, not at all.
No, yeah. Okay, cool. And just hands on the sticks and just okay, yeah, eyes forward, kind of. That's our converse.
And then just patting him on the back and going to lay on the floor in the corner again.
Alto knows how our conversations end of Lyric has said has communicated what needs to be made known, and it's okay, conversation over.
I received the basic information required to do the next task. That's yeah.
So I think the moment Lyric leaves, it's Valentyne coming from his Huldron talk. He's feeling pumped to learn about people's feelings, and he'll just swing into the same chair and be like,
Alto, of all the things in the galaxy, what would you like out of this world? I've realized I don't know you well, and that is my fault.
What would I want in the world?
Yes,
this world?
You've got a life given to you by the Emperor, and we're on this quest now. But what do you want next, if you got to choose?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing some schematics for some really, really interesting craft out there that the Imperium gets to use for, I would assume, military applications, but it looks really sophisticated, and I would be lying, if I said I wasn't interested in getting my hands on one of those things or giving them a spin,
Well, do you want to join the Navy and fight the Xenos in it, defend the realm? Do you want to run a shipping concern? Do you want to be your own rogue trader, fly through the stars, meet species, sell things?
Oh, I couldn't do anything, without Lyric with me. We're a team, she and I. So whatever we do, it would be together, So maybe what Lyric wants, and I can, kind of tag along now. This is already a pretty big improvement. Most of the time, Lyric goes out on a bounty hunt, and I stay home. So getting to be out, pilot a few crafts, it's been great so far.
How old are you?
Ignore us dying. I'm 21.
Interesting. Well, what's the craft you want to fly? If you had to choose.
I think I saw schematics once, and it was called and this is, I'm going to need maybe some help here, like a Titan or an Iron Knight or something, like a big bipedal.
Imperial Knight, you're talking full. Oh, that is a lofty goal, my friend, but it is what I'm interested in. And you do have the Mind Impulse unit. Have you tackled anything that has its own, I guess for lack of a better term, large-scale machine spirit? Not the ones that you find in cogitators or anything, but something that fought back.
No, not really. No, I was just fascinated by a machine shaped like a person that you put a person in. It seems like a really fascinating concept.
Acri kind of clears his throat. Oh,
yes.
Well, Acri didn't fight back though, right? That's the thing.
No, but I'm granted, I didn't have too much experience with the big guys back when I was piloting, but got to tell you, I've been quite enjoying our partnership here, friendo. It's been kind of nice, and if this is any indication, I think you probably get along just fine with the machine spirit.
Oh, well, okay, great. And then maybe you're an Inquisitor, right? So maybe you could, I don't know, make something happen. I don't know how it works.
Well, do you know what?
You talk the Emperor or whatever it is.
Requisition and iron. Here's my paperwork.
You've got the Emperor's accent, is I think what you say, right?
Well, yes, I speak with his voice, but what I think you could do...
The Emperor's accent!
This is exactly what he sounded like historically.
You do an impression of the Emperor.
Yes, I speak with his voice. Different but similar enough that this isn't worth going down the line on.
The Inquisition's just a bunch of shitty ventriloquists.
Yeah. Hello, I'm the Emperor. Nice chair, am I right?
How is he doing that?
No, but I think we've set up something that you want, and I think the risks you're taking on this goal are incredible. And I believe you deserve a reward at the end of this, because if you've saved the Emperor, then you have done your duty. And if we can find a way to extend that, we could do interesting things. I believe you are a bright, loyal soul.
Oh,
So in
yeah,
the end, I hope we can find it for you. But along the way, let's look for ways we can use that mind impulse unit. The more you're used to dealing with larger and larger scale machine spirits, the more prepared you'll be for a knight or a titan.
Okay, yeah. I'll try and practice or whatever. Like Alto just kind of like thinking of like we're not like we've got less than a year now to save the God Emperor of the Empire of Man or whatever it's called. Is thinking like probably don't have a lot of downtime for running drills or anything. So I'm just kind of thinking like, yeah, I guess just any opportunities that come up, I'll try and seize on them.
Oh, no. I don't mean that you have to do this on your own recreationally. What I'm saying is we can try to build it into plans. If we have to go into a facility, for example, a shipping facility where we know large scale, perhaps bipedal robots, machinery might be lifting things. Those things need drivers, and maybe we could choose a version that needs that rather than
they
climbing
have
a
them
ladder.
for that stuff too?
I think everything will help you expand your skill set. And if you're having fun
perfect.
and serving the Emperor, as far as I know, that makes you immortal.
That is a concept that like blows Alto's mind. He's not sure how truthful you're being. He's like, immortal?
Well, you'll live forever with his spirit in the heavens, and he will be pleased, because the work that pleases him should also please you.
Oh, okay.
The camera slowly pans to Haldren standing nearby, politely not engaging in this conversation. Be like, oh yeah, machine spirits. Oh, that sounds pretty good. What a specialized knowledge group. Yep, pretty interesting. But he's not saying it loud enough to interrupt your conversation, because he's just advised you to do this yourself. So it's more him just muttering to himself, being like, always a bridesmaid.
Yeah,
and always a tech maid.
Alto's experience with machine spirits is so limited that he probably isn't connecting the dots of like, this guy is housing machine spirits.
And I don't think the concept of machine spirits would exist on a hive world. I really don't. Like, it's so
well, he's also not trained. Machine spirits is like you're inducted into the cult of shit.
Well, and again, it's literally like, anytime anyone's shown up and be like, hey, I brought you Christianity, and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're barely scraping by, and they're like, but have you thought about maybe also building a church? You're like, no, I don't want to do that. I need food. So it's that kind of thing where it's like the hive, as we talked about with the Emperor, where it's just like, oh yeah, cool, the Emperor, great. Cool wherever he is.
That's kind of how Alto's been raised, right? So when he was like, your spirit lives on, Alto was kind of like, well, all right, fine.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously this is the beginning of a journey, and it's important that you make it. And I have limited expertise, but I may be able to summon opportunity. For example, Haldren.
Hey, what now?
I believe we have a man. He's 21. I thought he was younger. But we have a man here who would like to know more about the mysteries of the machine spirit, because he has an interest in one day piloting a knight, or perhaps a titan.
All of the spider arms shoot through the cockpit at weird angles and just drag him in a power slide of just like a casual lean up the stairs awkwardly, and he kind of like bumps his leg and the toe falls off. And he slides up to the cockpit. He's like, you rang? Machine spirit, you say? A titan, you say? Well, that's very interesting indeed, young man. Yeah, you wanna play in the big leagues, drive the big machines, huh?
I mean, maybe if we save the Emperor, I can get a Titan, for recreational use or something, right? Like that's...
Admittedly, that is something I would also enjoy. Yeah, let's do that. Hey, I meant to ask you, so you said we're trying to save the Emperor. You mean like the Emperor, not like an Emperor of lesser renown, right?
No, I mean the big man funneling the astropathic choir, creating the Astronomicon center of the entire Imperium.
Yeah, all right. That's what I was afraid of. Listen, obviously very concerned about him. And he like puts all of his robot arms on your shoulders, Valentyne, and he's like, but I gotta ask, what happens to the chair? Is the Golden Throne okay at least?
Well, if we do this right, yes.
But if we
not,
don't...
Destroyed, pissed on by an orc. There's a chaos space marine that drinks
and just like bad. All of like it's there's kind of like a Galadriel getting the ring moment where like all like the arms kind of almost shake their fists, but you can also see other bits moving under his robes. And it's like an alarming, like, kind of jolting thing. He's like, we gotta stop those assholes. Anyway, and they all like fold back, and he's like, happy to help.
Alto,
You just let me know when you want to drive the machines, and I'll help you out.
Well, Alto, this may seem nerve-wracking, but so is partnership between new partners, and no one pilots a Titan alone. They need, a Moderati Primus. They need someone to supervise the gunnery. They need someone to supervise the engine. Perhaps you two could provide more support for each other than you'd think.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. We could work together on some stuff, right? Haldren?
I'd love to. Shake on it. And he extends one of his robot hands again. This time a little bit more like,
Alto will, like, hesitantly put out a fleshy, twiggy limb and just, like, very delicately shake it.
It's like, your flesh hand. I see how it is. Okay.
And then he, like, looks over, like, the mechadendrite arm comes down and, like, interlocks.
Oh, there you go. That's a proper greeting. All right. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Okay, good to know.
Valentyne will be like, you boys have fun. And then go back to where Lyric is.
Lyric, what do you think you'd be doing at this point? Are you still just, like, laying on the floor holding your guts in?
Yeah.
Thinking about psychery things?
Absolutely. I am using every moment to recuperate.
Great.
Because that is what needs to be done right now.
I'm very glad nothing will come along to disturb that. Enter Valentyne.
Hello.
He's not entirely sure how to have a conversation that is purposeless. I think that's what his problem is here, because he was raised to the Scholar Progenium, transferred to the Commissariat Military Police, transferred to the Inquisition. He doesn't understand how anyone lives their life without knowing exactly why they're doing the thing they're doing with a clear end goal. So chit-chat has never been a thing for him. Probably also shut down constantly by everyone. Mm-hmm. So he, like, pulls up a chair, and I imagine it's like that thing where, like, it takes a little too long and it's a little too slow, and it, like, scrapes really loudly the whole time as he, like, brings it up.
I open one eye and kind of track you and then close it again.
I understand that you don't like me. And I can
Not really
understand...
that I don't like you. I'm just kind of indifferent and don't trust you.
Oh, that's, a general improvement from when you yelled, I hate you earlier. So seems like we're net gain.
I also hate you, but that's moment to moment.
Hate is very different from indifference. But, wow, you really have a skill for throwing people off conversationally. I'm here because I know my purpose. And right now we're all pursuing my purpose, but that doesn't seem tremendously rewarding for anyone else other than saving humanity. But again, that makes fewer people's lists of goals than I would expect. What do you want out of life?
Wait, are you really asking me what I want out of life or what I want out of what we're doing?
Well, life beyond this. I would imagine you want to survive this.
Yeah, I want the money.
Yes, exactly. But what do you want to do with the money? What's the end goal?
Fucking survive.
So your only goal is to not die?
Well, yeah, and for Alto to not die either. Isn't that all just like what we do? We just like live until we die and try to put off the dying as long as we can. Like, it's not that fucking difficult to understand.
But you've chosen bounty hunting as a profession, and you've chosen to refuse alliances, be uneasy with friends, trust no one. Those are all things that usually allow people to survive more effectively.
Yeah, you'd think that.
What happened to you two? Because that is a 21-year-old man with the mind of a 12-year-old who has no dreams outside of doing what you tell him. And that means something has happened to him and to you. And I say this as someone who observes a lot of human relationship and has studied psychology. if he has no dreams but yours at the age of 21, there will come a reckoning. Not that's summoned by anyone else, but that will be summoned by him realizing that he has his own wants. And if you're not prepared for that conversation, there will be a cost. It will cost you. And despite what you may think of me, I wish you no pain. I wish you happiness. I wish you the success in this quest, that we could save humanity. And then I wish for you to take that money and for you to live long and happily. But what happened?
Look, what do you want? Like, I like, what are you asking? I don't understand. Like, just be fucking direct.
There is a crackling on the radio that doesn't interrupt your conversation, but is suddenly present over all the speakers. It's a static crackle, and you can almost hear a voice coming through it, but not quite.
Alto would start tending to that since he'd be at the helm.
Yep.
In the cockpit. He's flying manually, but he would also, I think he would have the wherewithal or the necessary skill to start kind of trying to track that frequency while flying.
Sure. And Ackery's helping. At this point, you're descending into the upper atmosphere. So, you've got the burn vector. It is, I think that's sort of occurring as their conversation is going on. As soon as you've breached the atmosphere, the radio contact starts to come in. And you're just hearing like a constant static crackle and occasionally like almost a voice shouting, you think. You can just pick up like occasional syllables, but it's kind of like a kind of thing. That said, you're in dense cloud cover. So currently you physically can't see anything. Valentyne and Lyric, would you continue to have this conversation or would you break off at this? Given that you're also kind of at a conversational impasse.
I would say best be attending to that, eh?
And I think Valentyne would answer the question that she asked before she tried to segue out and just say,
so as she walks by, you just like clamp her arm.
Yeah.
What I want you to realize is that I would burn a world before I would let you or your brothers die. That's all. Time for me to go attend my task.
And he'd just get up and go to the cockpit and leave her to heal or whatever.
What a confusing, weird man.
Out of the, as Valentyne, as you settle in, again, just like clouds blasting past the viewport, Alto, you're starting to get pings, so you can kind of ascertain roughly where you might be able to set down and where you're getting large concentrations of things. What's surprising is you're getting a lot more signatures than you expected from a planet that is essentially like a distillery. And suddenly a proximity alarm starts to go off on the ship. And it would seem that there are vessels closing in on either side of yours. They seem to be atmospheric. They clearly aren't space vessels. And through the, as you kind of squint out, can both of you please roll me a perception check? For the love of God. I was looking for a fucking spot hidden. Goddamn Mythos mysteries. Okay, so, Lyric, you can roll me one too if you think you've joined them up in the cockpit. If you're hanging out back in the cargo bay, you wouldn't be able to see any of this, but...
No, action's happening, so...
Great, okay.
Are you looking for difficulty to set this against?
Yep,
or?
Surely am. So we're going to go with... for those of you with organic eyes, we're going to go with a difficulty of 4.
Yep.
Valentyne, do your optics... Do they have like heat signature, night vision?
They remove challenge dice from perception and vigilance rolls.
Okay, great.
According to environmental factors.
But that is very convenient because this is theoretically I would be adding setback rather than difficulty, but this is an odd case. I'm going to set yours at 2.
Okay.
I'm not going to give anyone setback dice for this. It's a bit different than trying to see something in cover, just because you're flying and there's cloud and there's sort of shapes. Also, because this is a spacefaring vehicle, it's not like being in sort of an Earth airplane where you have like a cockpit where you can physically see everything around you, because in space you don't need to. You have instruments for that. Cool. So go ahead with that. In terms of story points, unfortunately, we're sitting at 1 in 5 in my favor.
Yeah.
So one of you can use one if you so desire. Given that Ryan's got the best odds, it might make sense to give it to him, but you're also possibly in danger, so it's up to you whether you want to use it or not.
I think I'll let this one just play out clean, and we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Alto, you can take a boost dice from Acri, since you're wired in through him. I will leave it at that.
Cool.
Okay, I have my results. Everyone else? Okay, 2 successes, 1 threat.
Okay.
Me too, twin.
Oh, hey.
Oh,
brother,
hey.
sister. There we go.
And I have 3 successes and 2 advantage.
Oh, okay. Wow, great.
Nice.
Okay, so through the sort of like heavy cloud cover, and I want you to imagine these clouds as that beautiful, truly bright, like soft white, like light gray. Like they're not like thick, ominous things. It's that beautiful kind of wispy white cloud that you find in kind of, I think it's environments that have like a mid-level moisture, so it's not like, oh, it's gonna rain. It's just like, no, it's just beautiful clouds. So you're seeing these 2 vehicles flanking you, and they look a bit like, you can see wings, you can see cockpits, like they're definitely aircraft. And you see kind of like vaguely through the white of these clouds, just flashes of red. And then you see fire. You can see actual like burn trails from smaller things that almost look like rockets kind of flying around these. And slowly the radio is kind of clearing up the more and more you fuck with it. I think Alto in like in a vaguely Jurassic Parky, like increasingly concerned, like, what is this way? And finally you find the frequency, and the single syllable begins to stretch. And instead of a single letter, you begin to hear it for what it is. A horrifying, chilling scream of "Wah!" And with that, the orcs open fire.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Alto, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Lyric, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and the Valentyne Heresy's show logo was created by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics. Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, DM Rob, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue 1, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord of Bradovic, Noel Lewis, Anthony Griffin, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.